I'm coming. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is Bryan Goode. I lead the Business Applications and Agents team at Microsoft, and I'm really happy to be here with you today. I joined Microsoft in 2003, and I've been part of a number of really big transformations with the company. I was part of the on-premise to the cloud transition, which was really big. I was part of the launch of Microsoft Teams. And now I'm part of the transformation with AI. And I can tell you that the transformation with AI is even bigger than any of those other transformations in the past. And so it's a really exciting time to be at Microsoft, and it's a really exciting time to be with you here at Ignite. So thank you for being part of this session. I just want to start out with what I describe as a really big idea, speaking of big transformations. And I call this big idea intelligence on tap. Now, if you think about intelligence, it used to be scarce. Like there wasn't a lot of intelligence to go around. It used to be very expensive. But with the advent of AI, I think intelligence is becoming far more ubiquitous. And you might even call it on tap. It's scalable, infinitely scalable, in fact, available all over the world. It's becoming almost like a commodity, similar to electricity. And just like electricity, I think it's going to power our businesses and change the way that we work. So this idea of intelligence on tap is a big one. And it's not just an idea. It's actually already coming into the workplace. IDC tells us there's going to be over a billion agents in the workforce by 2028. And that's just like 3 years away. So this is happening in real time, and it's changing our workforce and our workplaces dramatically. Now, you have heard us talk a bit about this thing we call the frontier firm. And you could just think about this as almost like the model organization. And they're putting AI to work as part of everything they do, the way they handle business process inside their organization, the way they engage with their customers, the way they engage with employees. This is the idea of the frontier firm. I also think they're interesting because we can learn a lot from these frontier firms. They're a little bit of a lab for us to learn from and see what works and what doesn't work. Now, I know we're here to talk about the small and medium-sized business and the opportunity there. What I think is most interesting about SMB is first of all, they make up most of the world's workforce and certainly most of the world's organizations. So they're very, very important. They're powering our economies. They too are feeling the impact and some of the challenges of AI. For example, when we talk to small and medium business customers, we hear that 31% of them, 31%, they tell us they have a hard time hiring and retaining staff. Now, if you're in a small and medium-sized business, you probably already know this and you probably already feel it. Next up, we know that small and medium businesses struggle with inefficient processes. And in fact, 36% say that processes get in the way of them growing their business. And so it's not just the drudgery of process, it's actually getting in the way of revenue and growing the business. And then finally, almost half of small and medium-sized businesses tell us they've got siloed data, and that makes it harder for them to make better business decisions. And so these are challenges that every SMB faces. I left it out of my story, but while I did join Microsoft in 2003, I left in 2007 and worked at a couple different small businesses. In fact, one of them I was CEO at, and so I felt these pains acutely myself before I came back to Microsoft. Now, we have introduced a vision of something that we call the Agentic Business Application. And when I describe an Agentic Business Application, it's really squarely aimed at those 3 pain points we talked about before. The Agentic Business Application has Copilot integrated into the application, making it easier for employees to get work done, whatever it is they're trying to do. The Agentic Business Application has pre-built business process agents that are ready to go to help you with common business processes. And finally, the Agentic Business Application, well, it's integrated deeply with productivity because we know the way most people spend their days actually in their productivity apps, their email, their apps like Teams where they handle meetings, or perhaps exploring documents on SharePoint or in a Word document. That's where people spend their time. And so finding a way to bring those two together, bridge that divide between the system of record and the productivity app, is a really big idea. And so these three things really represent what I describe as the Agentic Business Application. Now, of course, Microsoft, we have a full suite of these Agentic Business Applications across our Dynamics portfolio, all grounded in Copilot, inclusive of our low-code applications and Power Platform as well. But, and I know I'm not supposed to do this, I have one favorite. And this is the only one of these I'm actually doing. And so please don't share it, but I'll tell you, my favorite is Business Central. And the reason Business Central is my favorite, and the only session I'm doing here on one of these applications, is because I know the power it can have for the small and medium business. You can think of Business Central as a business management application for SMB. It's all in one, and it really embodies the ideal of that Agentic Biz app that I described. We recently disclosed Business Central now has over 50,000 customers, and that's growing by the day. So that makes it the #1 small and medium-sized business ERP platform out there. Now, more broadly across our portfolio, we have over 100,000 customers using Copilot capabilities in Dynamics and Power Platform. And then across the globe, and again, across the platform, we have over 500,000 customers on our Dynamics or low-code solution with Power Platform every single month. So we think there's a big opportunity here. Agentic business applications are really the way that we believe we can help small businesses and medium businesses move to that frontier. And so without further ado, I'd like to bring up Kurt to the stage, and Kurt's going to share how Business Central addresses each of those things, integrated with Copilot, has pre-built business process agents, and then integrates with Microsoft 365. Kurt.
Thank you so much, Bryan. We're very honored having you with us. Very heartwarming also to hear that you feel that BC is the best biz app out there. So thank you so much. And thank you for all of you for being here. So we really, really appreciate you taking the time at Ignite here to join us into this session. And also to the people online, really thank you for being part of this session where we're going to talk about how Business Central can really help you scale your operations, especially with the AI components that we're going to talk about. My name is Kurt. I am a principal product manager in the Business Central team, and I have had the pleasure to work for Microsoft for almost 2 decades. And in those 2 decades, I've mainly been working with partners, doing all kinds of initiatives to help and build, making partners being successful in the business. In the next 30 minutes, we are going to talk a little bit more about Business Central, and we're going to talk about it in 3 specific buckets. We're going to talk about 3 topics. The very first one is we are going to explain what Business Central is, because I'm pretty sure that some of you already know what Business Central is, but some of you might not know it yet, and we need to explain some of the basics. Then we're going to talk about the transformation that we have been doing in the product so that it really is an AI powerhouse at this moment in time. And then lastly, I'm pretty sure that you also want to see some demos, right? So we're going to also open up the product and do some live demos together. Good. So let's start with explaining a little bit more what is the problem that we're trying to solve with Business Central. And for that, I want to all of you take you and talk a little bit about our mission statement. Our mission statement really is to empower every individual and every organization on this planet to achieve more. And to do that, we really need to talk to a lot of the business owners out there to really understand what's holding them back. And Bryan has already given some examples of what's holding business owners back in growing the business. But we also hear really great feedback on what they need to grow their business, to scale their operations. And that feedback is fairly consistent. In order for them to adapt faster, work smarter, and perform better, what they really want is an AI-powered business application. And the AI-powered business application needs to focus on 4 components. And these 4 components is what we're going to talk about. The very first one, business owners really want to understand, really want to have a great control about what's happening with their finance. They really want to understand their financial health because that's super important. Cash is king, and every decision that you make can make or break your business. You really need to understand which customers owe you money, which vendors do you still need to pay, and all of that needs to be logged in very much detail. However, you don't want your people to do a lot of admin. So the business owners are telling us, yes, we really want to use AI capabilities and functionality to help us with that. Second, in the world of today, global economy, you don't really get a lot of second chances in selling to your customers. So every sales opportunity which is out there, big or small, you really want to be on top of them so that you can provide a great product and a great customer service. Third, what they told us, is those customers who have some form of project business, service business, of course they want to make sure that they have the right people, the right skills, the right resources on the job site, and that they can deliver the project in time, in good time, but also in budget, because of course you want to make some money on a project as well. And then lastly, of course, for those who have some form of inventory, you want to make sure that you have optimal inventory levels. That means no warehouses full of dusty and overdue goods. You also don't want to have empty shelves, because you want to make sure that if a customer wants to have an item, that you can deliver really, really fast. These 4 components that you see on the screen right here are our holy grail when we start to think about which functionality do we need to bring into Business Central. So let's talk a little bit more about what Business Central actually is. So Business Central is an online business application which is designed for the SMB ecosystem, so the small and medium-sized businesses. It's an online service which is globally available, and of course you're going to be able to use it in your language, and it is going to be adapted to your regulatory requirements. As Bryan said, it is trusted by more than 50,000 organizations at this moment in time. Think about that. 50,000 organizations are running their operations, their finance, based upon Business Central Online. And that's absolutely amazing. And of course, the functionality is really going to work well with some of the investments that you might have already done with Microsoft, meaning M365, etc. Now, often we get the question, okay, that makes sense, but tell me, what are some of the core investments that you're doing in the product? And if I would ask the question, what do you think our #1 priority is? I'm pretty sure that some of you are going to raise their hand and say, AI, because all of this conference was about AI. But in fact, that's not true. Our very first priority with Business Central is security. We need to make sure that customers using the product have a secure environment. So it's really clear. We get really clear instructions from our CEO. If he can do 2 tasks on the product, one is security, one is something else, focus on security. Security is absolutely non-negotiable. If you can't trust your data with Business Central, then we're lost. So the second priority, core priority that we have in the product, is quality. It needs to be a qualitative service that we provide. Now, what does quality actually mean? That means a lot of things, right? It could be that your data is close to you. It could be that it scales up when you wanted to scale up with your business. It could be that it brings in new innovation once in a while, and that innovation is easy to use, well communicated, and that you can install it whenever it fits your business needs, when it actually really works for you, so not during peak hours. And then, of course, #3 indeed is making sure that we transform this application into really an AI-powered business application. That's #3. But the true differentiator of the product is our partner ecosystem. Partners are the ones who are going to implement the product through our customers, and these are the ones that are going to look to your processes to customers. They're basically really going to zoom in, like, what are your needs, what are your challenges, and they're going to really help you implement. Do we have partners in the room over here? Can you raise your hand? Yeah, we've got quite good. Now, for these partners, I've got a question. the people online can't see you. So for the partners, can you give me a yeehaw? Okay, so we talked about passion, right? Bryan said that he was very passionate about the product. I thought that I was very passionate. So we need to do that again so that the people online can also hear that. Can I get a yeehaw? Yeah. Voila. So that's our partner. So super, super cool that we have those. They are the ones that really implement the magic with the customers, that really coach the customers. But also we have ISVs, and ISVs basically provide applications that will fulfill the needs from industry needs, but also some of the horizontal needs. And we could spend all day long talking about ISVs because we've got more than 8,000 apps on our marketplace. But today I wanted to put a spotlight on one, and that is Ramp. Ramp has really revolutionized expense management. And I'm going to talk about myself. When I came back home from this conference, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have lost some tickets, that I need to put it in the tool, and the tool is not that fast, sorry Microsoft. And I've probably missed some compliancy rule email. But basically what you see is that Ramp has really revolutionized how expense management is going to look like. We've got a small video for that we're going to play right now.
𝗲𝗲 is growing, and their old expense process? Slow, manual, frustrating. They need a smarter way. On Microsoft Marketplace, 𝗲𝗲 finds Ramp's expense management solution built on Microsoft's trusted platform. Transformation begins with a click. Employees get Ramp corporate cards so they can make approved purchases fast. Questions about policy? Ask in Microsoft Teams. Ramp's AI policy agent, powered by Azure Foundry, responds quickly. The agent also reviews expenses for compliance. It approves valid spend, rejects violations, and flags for review. Finance teams only focus on expenses that need attention, saving time. Behind the scenes, Ramp's software connects with Dynamics 365 Business Central to pull policy data, reconcile automatically, and sync approved transactions. Real-time visibility into spend, powerful analytics for smarter decisions, built-in controls for global compliance. Ramp is leading the way with financial intelligence powered by Microsoft. Build on Microsoft's platform. Connect across Dynamics 365 and Microsoft 365, and scale globally with Microsoft Marketplace.
Ramp really built an extremely interesting user experience, and they've used the latest technology, MCP service, to really connect Business Central with their solution, and that's absolutely hats off. Now, we need to talk about user experience, just the thing that Ramp does really, really well. The biggest reason why business applications fail is because there's no user adoption, right? They don't like the user interface. So basically what we need to do, we really need to bring the processes and the tools right into where the users are actively working. So that's why you will see that within Outlook, you will be able to create contacts and quotes. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you will be able to work together in teams, on projects, on orders, etc. And I've basically put in a screenshot of how such a Teams integration could look like. So this is a Teams discussion. And on the right side of the screen, you saw that basically there was a conversation about a specific customer. And I can see the information from that customer right within Teams. I can see all of the fields. But then on the middle of the screen, you can also see that there is some insight available. And that really transforms this information towards a system of action. And that's absolutely what we need to do. And then I'm pretty sure that all of you have their favorite Excels as customers. And what you really want with these Excels is that the data is updating automatically. And that's what you will get with Business Central. Basically, you don't need any bridge components to update the information. It will basically be integrated automatically. Now, of course, every BC user who is doing and manipulating data is going to have to be licensed. But we're also super happy to share with you that users that have a Teams license now can also access all of the information inside Business Central. And that is, of course, really making sure that you don't have to write down things on sticky notes and on paper and download it into Excel. Everybody can get access immediately towards the data where it is actually stored. So that is definitely something that I want you to take home with you. Every Teams member will have access to the data from within Business Central. All right, that was just a little bit of an intro of what Business Central is. Of course, there's many more information that you can look up. If you go to our website, there's a great capability guide which describes all the rich functionality that we have. So I would encourage you to do that. But right now, right here, we want to talk a little bit more about AI in Business Central. And just as Bryan explained, we basically see 3 levels of AI capability. This is the very first one, is the ones that we're going to talk about on the left, and this is where typically customers start, is they start by using Copilots. And Copilots is making the user much more efficient, much more productive. And our Copilot is basically really integrated in many parts of the application. We're going to show a little later on. But then later on, if the users have seen the benefits of Copilot, you can see that they are really hungry for the next step. To really become that frontier firm, you'll see that organizations are going to be willing to implement agents. Agents where processes are going to be run in an autonomous way with limited human interaction. And then lastly, as Bryan also explained, BC provides MCP servers that basically make it capable for you to connect the data within the business applications with all the other information that you have out there. So that basically opens up many more opportunities for building more agents. Now let's zoom in a little bit more on the Copilots that we have. Copilots are really here to help you learn new skills. They're here to help you analyze data, to find records. It will help you suggest stuff, and it will take the boredom out of some of those lengthy tasks that some people really need to do. Now, what I'm going to do instead of talking about slides, I'm going to go to my machine, and we're going to figure out some of those Copilots together. All right. Here is my beloved user interface of Business Central. And I'm pretty sure that Bryan is smiling when he sees this user interface, just like we do as well. It's really a pretty user interface. In this demo, I'm going to play the role of a business owner from a small business organization. And what I see over here is, I already see quite a bit of information. But there's something that doesn't make me super happy. Because if I look to the very first number over here, it basically tells me that my team wasn't able to do any sales whatsoever this month. That's not really the thing that I wanted to do. I talked about at the beginning that customers really want to be on top of their financial health. I know that I have invoices to pay. So the first question that I'm going to ask Copilot is, can you please explain to me which customer is basically owning me most money at this moment in time? So I'm going to press enter here, and there's quite a bit of things happening behind the scenes now. First of all, my demo environment needs to wake up a little bit. But if you think about the line that I put in, which customers owes me most money? Customer is actually not something that Business Central knows, because if you think about it, the table that we use behind the screen is called customer and not client, as I put it in my text. So it's going to match that. And then owes me most money. Owes me most money probably means that it needs to look into the accounting system, look at sales orders, and then find the right sales order and the right customer to come to this number. And it basically tells me, this is the customer that owes you most money. All right, let me open that up. And what you will see over here is on the left side of the screen. These are all kinds of fields that we have in our business applications. And let's be honest, we have been showing this information in records, in rows, in fields for the last 50 years. But if you look into the middle, you see a new pane, Insights, which is really transforming our system from a system of record to a system of action. Because I see lots of information about this customer now, and I can even see more. So first of all, let me the system think a little bit, because I've asked it to look up a little bit more insights of this customer. But I can see, for example, what is the outstanding balance for this customer. I can see that that is 53,000, and if I click on it, it will point me directly towards the screen. I can also see that typically the customer is paying within 18 days, which is fine. Now, if I go to that specific field over here, I can see more information about that. I can also see how many invoices I still have. What you will see is that this insight window is going to reason over all of the information that it can find, not only on this specific customer card, but throughout the complete business application, all the sales, all the orders that it actually knows. And if there's one field, for example, I can see here that we have a profit margin of 22%. I can also see, for example, that there are, I'm going to pick the field here, overdue balance. If I don't fully understand what that field is going to do for me, I can also ask Copilot to explain me a little bit more, to educate me what that field is actually all about. And now it's going to look into all of the surrounding information in our documentation on Learn whatsoever, and it's going to tell me what that field is all about. Now I still have that issue that this customer has so much open, that they still owe me so much money. So the question that I have basically is, how can I remind them to pay their own invoices? And what you'll see happening over here is that now it's going to look into more documentation to see if there's specific functionality out of the box that you can enable. And we talked about those ISVs like RAMP, what we showed. It's also going to look through the documentations of our ISVs to really look into, like, hey, what is it exactly, if you have installed that app, like, how can we help you? How can we teach you new skills on that end? Now, I've been interacting with this system in English, and of course, we support many languages. Actually, yesterday at the booth, we had a person that basically asked, could you also mix languages in the questions that you ask? And so we're going to take it for a test. Over here, I have a line which is basically asking the same question, like which customer owes me most money, but I'm going to use, 4 languages in 6 words. So, Kel, French, klant is Dutch, owes me is, of course, English, and then my absolute favorite in Spanish, muchos dineros. And also here, you can see that it is going to recognize it, and it is going to be able to come up with that answer. So it's also going to recognize that. So you'll see here that that all of your employees, no matter the language that they use, that they can actually find that information that they need to. All right, I'm going to show another Copilot. I'm going to switch gear a little bit. And this is the Copilot that basically has been used the most within Business Central. We see that in our telemetry, and that is our bank reconciliation functionality. Now, bank reconciliation, for those of you who are not that familiar with ERP, probably I need to explain it a little bit. Of course, you have in your ERP, in your business applications, you've got lots of transactions in your accountancy and through your orders, etc. But there's also this source of truth on your bank account. And these two needs to be exactly the same. You don't want to have been missing transactions that you haven't put into your business applications, which are in your bank, and vice versa. Because otherwise, you might get in trouble a little bit with auditing or with Big Brother. So what users needed to do is on a recurring basis, they needed to match the lines between what's happening on the bank account with which is happening in the ERP applications. And over here we've got a demo which has a couple of interesting lines that I got. Now, these are only a few lines. There's only 3 to 4 lines in both of the screens here. But in reality, you will know that your customers will have many more line items in both screens. And it is a very tedious job because, you know, if you think about it, the descriptions are not the same, the dates are not the same, the customer numbers are not completely the same. So it really is going to be a puzzle which takes up a lot of time. And also in my example over here, you can see that the first line needs to match with the line over here, but the description is not 100% the same. If I go through the second line item, I can see that the date which has been suggested left and right is different. So that's something that we need to resolve. And then lastly, I can see that over here we've got one line item of 7K, or approximately 7K. And on the right side, these are 2 line items in my ERP system. So I hope you understand that there's quite a bit of complexity with trying to match this. And you know, the person that is tasked with doing that reconciliation is typically, that's not their favorite day of the week. But now it really becomes their favorite day of the week, because with the Copilot functionality that we have available out of the box, all of that reconciliation is going to happen just in one click. And that's it. AI is going to use all of its functionality. It's going to calculate, it's going to look at language, it's going to look at all kinds of formula to do that reconciliation automatically. Another Copilot that I wanted to show was our suggest of the sales order lines. And what I want you to imagine here is that you have this customer on the phone, and you know, you have your phone between your ear and your shoulder, and he's basically telling me, like, listen, I would love to have this item and this item and this item. And what I'm going to do here is just typing in what the customer has told me on the phone. He's been telling me, I would love to have a dozen yellow chairs, I would love to have a handful of red chairs, and a pair of Amsterdam tables. Now, notice that I haven't typed in correct quantities, and that the items that I have put in are not really the correct ones. If I'm now going to say, okay, let's generate that, he's going to suggest me these sales items automatically. Okay? So over here, another example of how we make users much more effective, how we make them much more productive. So that's some of the Copilots that we have, or some of the Copilot functionality that we have, that you will find throughout the complete application. But I want to take it to the next level, because we also want to talk a little bit more about agents. And out of the box, we currently have 2 agents, which is the sales order agents and the payable agents. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on what the sales order agent is doing for you. Now, first of all, let's explain the basics. Just assume, again, I'm a small business owner, and I have on my website, I have this email address where people can come in and they can ask questions whether I have items on stock, whether I can get item information about specific items, what price they have, whether they could potentially be having a quote. And often, when this email chain is being translated into an order, then that's great. But if it's just a lot of back and forth and it doesn't really result in orders, then it's a lot of wasted time. Now what you see is that our sales order agents are actually going to be able to do all of that communication, and of course there's always going to be a human in the loop. The question that we typically get is, it must be pretty complex to set up sales order agents, and well, actually no, it's super simple. You see that there's a new icon in the top of the client, and if I hover over it, basically tells me how many emails have been sent for me and how much time it has been saved for me. I'm going to look at some of the settings, and the settings that I have how do I activate an agent? It's actually super simple. You can see that on the left top, it's activated. That's it. Next thing, I need to tell which mailbox do you want the agent to go and look for. And in the advanced settings, I'm going to define what type of autonomy that I want to give the agent. I can assume that when you enable the agent for the very first time, you don't really trust it sending emails on your behalf. And I want you to think about that when you see these cars with these self-driving capabilities, like the very first time you sit in these cars, you have your hands like 1 inch above the wheel, and you're a little bit afraid of what's going to happen, but then you see after 2 weeks that people are reading the newspaper or literally falling asleep while the car is driving itself. And that's exactly the same what you do over here. You're basically going to define which autonomy you want the agents to have. Do I want it to react to new customers? Do I want it to create orders? Do I want it to create quotes? That are some of the things that you define over here. Now, I'm going to go into the sales order communication flow. And we're going to look at 2 communications. The very first one that I'm going to open up here is a complete chain of mails that have been going back and forward, and we're going to look at them. And the very first mail that I got was the mail basically asking, like, "Dear Kronos team, we are doing a office refresh, and our interior designer kind of came up with a bright idea because he wants us to have yellow chairs and some new tables. Would it be possible for you to do you have those in stock? Can you offer those? And if so, what pricing would be available on it?" That's the mail that came in. Now, the next thing that you'll see is that the agent is going to reply to us automatically, basically saying, "Okay, thank you so much for your inquiry. We indeed have these kind of items in stock. In fact, we've got a couple of possibilities. Here's the price. Some of these things we have in stock at this moment in time, and some of these things we can deliver a little bit later on." So this is the email that has been prepped by the agent, and the moment that it is prepped, then I can basically review it, and then basically saying, "Yep, I like what you prepped. Please continue sending it." The next is a communication back from the customer, basically say, "Thank you so much for giving me this information. What I would love to do right now is I would love to have a detailed quote with the best price, and I would love for you to keep into account that my internal order is going to be, my internal reference number is going to be this specific number over here." And of course, the agent is going to reply and is basically going to say, like, "Yep, we have created the order for you. This has been created by the agents, and I can see the reference number which has been used, and I can see the lines that it's been asking," right? So that's all been created. And of course, it's also going to send out that email with confirming, "Hey, you know what? We have the quote created for you," and over here, you can see it even in a report form. This communication has also been prepped by the agent. I can review it. When I trust it, I can say, "Good, send it off." Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a very similar flow. And actually, for demo purposes, I've used exactly the same email. But I'm going to take this one a little bit further. Because at this moment in time, so everything is exactly the same. The quote was created, but in the very last step, the customer is basically saying, "I would really love to convert this quote into an actual sales order." And of course, these are the kind of mails that we appreciate. And you can see over here, when I open it up, that is the sales order, which has now been created automatically. No work was needed for me. And also here, just the same. Over here, the only thing that I need to do is review the email, and then I can send, "Yep, I like what you've been doing. Really cool. The order has been created, and the document that you have is prepared really well. And the only thing that I need to do over here is saying, continue." And we're done with the fully complete flow. So let's go back to the slides. So this is the very first agent that we have available, the sales order taker. We also have the payable agents, and the payable agents is an agent that will read vendor invoices, so the mails that you get, and typically from your vendors you get a PDF, and in the PDF there's all kinds of information that needs to be translated into a purchase order, and our vendors, they like changing the documents flow, the PDF flows once in a while. With the payable agents, what is going to happen is it's going to read the document, and you don't need OCR software because it's an Azure service which is going to read that document automatically, and it is going to create the document, the purchase document automatically. The sales order agent is generally available. The payable agent is at this moment available in the countries where, in English-speaking countries, but we are going to roll that out further on. And of course, there's going to be many more agents that we are going to invest in. And in fact, we're building lots of platform tools and capabilities so that we can create agents specifically to your processes and specifically to your unique scenario. That is capabilities that we're working very hard on at this moment in time. And as Bryan also said, of course, you can take it even further by basically saying, you know what, you can build your own agents by using Copilot and Azure services even further and broader than with Business Central. Now, what is really heartwarming, which is energizing us, is that we see that we're starting to see lots of reactions from our customers which are using these capabilities, saying that they're super happy with using the AI capabilities, the Copilot capabilities and the agents by Business Central. It's really helping them to become smarter, they can adapt faster, and they can perform better. Feedback that we're getting, for example, is like now we don't have to do these low, boring jobs, highly repetitive. It's basically been done by AI. The other feedback that we've been getting is like, the sales order taker, it was so easy to set up, and more customers are saying, yes, we really want agents to take over those processes, rule-based processes that are, we're not really differentiating our people. We really want our people to make sure that they focus on what's really key for our business. And we're doing this with lots of partners, and we're doing this across industries. And we are, really, really happy on the progress that we see and in the investments that has been doing into the partner ecosystem on AI and Agentic. And what I would love to end with is I hope that this has inspired you as a customer to potentially have a conversation with your partner on what AI and Copilot can do for you. If you are not a partner yet, so if you're not a customer yet, we would really encourage you to go to businesscentral.com. We would really encourage you to come and visit us at the booth. And for those who are really technical and want to see some of the development in action, my buddy Stefan is going to do some vibe coding in the expo where we're going to build some applications together. I really want to thank you all for being here. If you've got questions, we have quite a bit of experts in the room. Stefan is in the room. I saw that 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 was in the room over there. So please feel free to go and ask questions about Business Central. And approach us as well. And look forward to seeing you and have a great rest of Ignite. Thank you, everybody.